Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us here today. It is November 5th, a Friday, Venus Day, the end of a week, and we're still feeling a lot of the energy from yesterday's new moon in Scorpio. So you might still be feeling a lot of that intensity, a lot of those shifts. That energy is going to carry over into Friday. We have some other major planetary shifts happening today. Mercury is moving into Scorpio tonight, but first Venus moves into Capricorn. It actually just moved into Capricorn this morning. So we're going to talk through that, what it means, how long these planets will be transiting through these signs. Little hint, Venus is going to be in Capricorn for a while, and we have a Venus retrograde coming up as well. So we'll talk about what that means, what you can expect. It's always good to be out ahead of the energy, right? Not being just reactive to it. But first, let's talk about what the moon is still doing. The moon is still in Scorpio. And before I jump into all the transits of the day, I'm going to start with a little story because I think that this is it's interesting. It's powerful. So I woke up this morning, and you might have seen, if you follow me on Instagram, I helped host a new moon circle the other night on the 3rd. And we made some moon water. We put crystals in it, sodalite, amethyst, and I believe clear quartz. And then we put it out at night for the new moon to be charged by the new moon. So I put out my crystal water last night with my crystals in it in the moonlight, and went to pull it out of my backyard before the sun comes up. So, it retains all of its magic. It retains all of its energy. And as I pulled it in the house, I noticed something on the jar, and I realized it was a slug. It was a slug on the mason jar with my crystals in it. So, of course, being a naturally curious person, being someone who likes to find deep meaning in everything, probably because I have a Scorpio moon, I, of course, looked up the spiritual meaning of slugs and snails, and I found it really interesting. So I wanted to share with you. I felt like it was a little message from the universe to me, and maybe it'll resonate with you as well. So, of course, the first thought I had would be, okay, the universe is telling me to slow down, stay steady, right? Slugs are very slow and steady, very slow moving. But I wanted to know kind of what other properties or what other spiritual values slugs can hold. So I looked it up on Google, very official. But a lot of religions and ancient cultures believed slugs and snails were divine, or were symbols from God, from whoever they believed in. And so the snail was sacred to the ancient Greeks. They keyed them in as when the crops were ready to harvest. So they looked at them as a symbol of when the crops were ready to harvest. In ancient Aztec culture, they saw the snail as sacred because the shell represented the cycle of life, the cycle of death and rebirth, something we talked a lot about yesterday, and themes that are definitely coming up during Scorpio season, with the new moon in Scorpio, with Mars currently in Scorpio, and by tonight, Mercury will be in Scorpio as well. So we have a lot of Scorpio energy, and the snail is right on track with that. But that's the snail. Let's go into the slug. I know you guys came on this morning thinking I was going to talk about astrology, and I am. But first, we got to figure out the meaning of this slug. So, my first inclination was to be kind of grossed out, honestly, because, slugs are slimy and creepy. But when I read into it more, I thought it was really interesting because slugs are actually hermaphroditic or hermaphroditic animals. So they embody the divine masculine and the divine feminine. One slug can mate with any other slug. And so they're a symbol of fertility. They can produce hundreds of offspring, and it doesn't matter what. I guess I don't know if slugs even have genders. They can mate with each other regardless of their gender. And slugs also are kind of being seen as between homes because they don't have a shell like snails. So some people believe that they could be representative of shamanic practices. Some cultures, like ancient cultures and Native Americans, used to use the snail as to heal toothaches. They would basically let a snail squirm around in their mouth, and they believed that the like goo that it leaves behind had healing properties, which is so interesting because I was looking at the jar this morning that the slug was climbing on or crawling on. How does a slug move? I don't know. But it had little slug trails all over it, which was so cute. It had crawled all over the jar, slid all over the jar. And so I'm but first, consider the slug. Jenny, I did consider the slug. I actually put the jar back outside in a shady spot so it could survive because I didn't want to bring it in and A, have a slug in my house, and B, kill it. So I left it outside hoping that it would move on to a different home and that the sun wouldn't touch my new moon water. So fingers crossed, we'll check after this live stream. But yeah, it had this little trail all over the jar. So I just tried to picture the slug's goo. Oh my gosh, you guys, this conversation. Like what is even happening? But I tried to picture it, infusing those healing properties. Either it was drawn to the jar because of the healing crystals in them, or it wanted to add its own magic to the jar. So I'm seeing it as a good omen. And this one website off of Google, which is probably very official, it says that it is a good omen. So I'm taking it as a good omen. It's one last little thing I want to tell you that I learned about slugs and snails is that they are one of the only species that can bridge the gap between the element of earth and the element of water, because we have slugs and snails on land, of course, and then we also have them in the sea. And so a lot of spiritual people see them as a bridge between those elements. Kind of another reason that they are seen as divine, because they can bridge that gap between the earth of element and water, and they can also apparently cross the spiritual barrier between the physical and spiritual world. So regardless of what the slug means, what the snail means, and why I got that little message from the universe, or if it's just pure coincidence, I just wanted to share that little insight that I found with you as more people are coming on this morning. Someone saying, what? Yes, I am talking about a slug that I found on my new moon water jar this morning when I went to pull it out of the moonlight. And so, yeah, I just think it was a fun little sign from the universe. But I've talked enough about slugs now. Let's get into the transits of the day. So we have Venus that moved into Capricorn at about 3:45 this morning. So Venus is here. It's all about the long-term plan with our love life, with our finances. We'll go more deeply into that as well. And then tonight, Mercury moves into Scorpio. It's been in Libra for quite a long time because of its retrograde in Libra. It had an extended stay. So we'll talk about the energy that Mercury in Scorpio is going to bring over the next 3 weeks or so. But first, let's talk about what's going on with the new moon in Scorpio. So the moon moves much more quickly than any of the celestial bodies. You can think of it as a vantage point we have here on Earth. That's what the astrology chart looks like. So actually, let me pull that up for you so you can see what I'm talking about. But the moon moves so quickly, so its effects on us are very fleeting. It lasts each transit lasts just a couple hours, but the moon also strongly affects our mood. You can think of it as, the moon's magnetic pole controls the tides on the earth, controls a lot of the water here on earth, and we as humans are about 70% water. So water in astrology is seen as ruling our emotions, and so our emotions are certainly ruled by the movement of the moon. And that's why some days when we have a lot of connections with the moon, or a lot of intense or conflicting aspects between the planets and the moon, sometimes our emotions can feel a little bit like a roller coaster. They can change very quickly from one state to another because the moon moves so quickly through our sky. So let's pull up the current astrology chart so you can see what I'm talking about. I'll get it pulled up here on my screen momentarily. Still in beta here, you guys. That's what we're calling it because we just launched this live stream yesterday and still working out a few kinks on my end. I am still figuring out how to do a lot of the technical stuff on the back end. So I do appreciate you being patient with me as I get this pulled up. All right, here we go. Here is a look at the transits of the day. So I'm going to move my mouse around on that screen so you can kind of see what I'm talking about, but we can see that the moon is at 23 degrees in Scorpio right now. So here it is on your screen, the moon. There we go. I want to move those little words so you can see it. And if you're watching on Instagram right now, pop on over to YouTube. You'll be able to see what I'm talking about, and you'll be able to ask questions and comment over there. So the moon is at 23 degrees in Scorpio right now, which means it just formed a connection to Jupiter within the past hour or so. So let's just kind of walk through what the moon has done so far and then where it's going today, how that will affect us emotionally, and then we'll talk about these two major planetary shifts that we're seeing today as well. A lot of movement with energy, a lot of energetic shifts that we're feeling after this new moon in Scorpio, two major planets moving into different signs and bringing this fresh energy, helping us welcome in this fresh chapter that we set intentions for yesterday. So overnight, you might have woken up actually from vivid dreams or intense dreams, and that's because at about, let's see what time, 2:30 this morning Pacific time, so if you are on the East Coast, 5:30 a.m., we had the moon forming a harmonious angle to Neptune. So when the moon a few hours ago was at 20 degrees in Scorpio, it formed this trine to Neptune. You can see that here. I wish this didn't pop up with words on the screen. But again, you guys, we are in beta. We'll figure it out. Don't worry. So the moon formed a trine to Neptune overnight, which can give us some vivid dreams, or we could even have traveled across astral planes if you normally astral project or do astral traveling, or if you just had really intense, vivid dreams. You are right in tune with the moon. The moon is in Scorpio, which is a highly psychic sign. And of course, as we talked about yesterday, it's the most intense sign. We can be deeply into our emotions and feel that deep intensity when the moon is in Scorpio. Neptune is in Pisces. It's actually retrograde in Pisces right now. And Neptune rules Pisces. Oh, Neptune rules Pisces. So Neptune is the planet of dreams. It's the planet of, it's also another highly psychic planet, or Pisces is a highly psychic sign. They're both water signs. Why they're forming this harmonious angle to each other? Because they're both in the element of water right now. And so pay attention to any dreams you had that you can remember when you woke up. Even if they seem odd or bizarre, they could hold some deep messages within them. If you saw maybe a loved one in your dreams that has passed, or even one that hasn't passed, don't take that for granted. They could be coming through with an important message for you, or with some important wisdom, or they could simply just be coming through to say hello and let you know that you're guided and you are on the right track. I think Mo, my dog, is still feeling the intense energy of the moon forming an angle to Neptune. You can see him if you're watching the YouTube stream. Those were his little paws behind me. I didn't want to kick him out. I felt bad because he came in here on his own. I think he just likes the energy of this room, and he wanted to sleep in here. So he's joining us on the stream today. He's all bundled up in a blanket behind me. So that was overnight. When we first woke up this morning at about 5:30, the moon formed a square to Jupiter. So this Scorpio moon still holding on to that energy that we felt yesterday with the moon becoming new, this transformative energy, this energy of release and rebirth, death and rebirth, still continues through most of the morning today. But when we start our day with the moon forming a square to Jupiter in Aquarius, squares normally bring tension or challenges. However, this square is to a planet that's really optimistic and abundant, the planet of Jupiter. Especially the planet of Jupiter in Aquarius helps us think big, think outside the box. This energy that we're waking up to this morning can make us feel almost blindly optimistic. We will be waking up with good vibes, kind of similar to yesterday. We had a nice little transit, a little aspect in the morning that helped us wake up with a little pep in our step. But the moon forming a square to Jupiter can also activate these two planets and almost force us to take action. And so we could be more prone to excessive tendencies, obsessive tendencies with the moon in Scorpio. Definitely likes to fixate on things. So if you are feeling like grabbing that super sweet coffee this morning, if you're feeling like having the donut or having that sugary pastry, the moon is forming a square to Jupiter, and our inhibitions or our ability to have boundaries with ourself might be a little bit compromised. So just keep that in mind. It's not a bad thing to treat yourself, especially if you've been really diligent about your health lately. Maybe this is the energy allowing you to ease up a bit and enjoy your life a little bit more. Jupiter is all about abundance and gratitude. And speaking of gratitude, if you are still feeling the intense energy of the Scorpio new moon and still dealing with the difficult emotions that it brought up, or still processing what it brought up, still trying to figure out what intentions you want to set, because we do still have the potent power of the new moon to set intentions today. So if you didn't get a chance to do that today or yesterday or last night, today will be a good day to set intentions still. And we talked about this yesterday, but this new moon is really the last new moon of 2021 that is powerful for manifesting. The next new moon is going to be a solar eclipse in Sagittarius, and eclipses aren't great for manifesting or for setting intentions, just because the light is blocked during an eclipse, and the light is what feeds our manifestations, feeds our intentions. So this energy right now, while the moon is in Scorpio this morning, is going to be really potent for setting intentions, not just for the rest of the year, but for 2022. And like I said, if you're still processing all of the energy from yesterday's new moon, from last night's new moon, a gratitude practice could be a really great way to start your day, with the Scorpio moon forming a square to Jupiter, because leaning into gratitude feels very natural with this transit. And gratitude can be a form of a spiritual practice. If you have a spiritual practice that you enjoy, maybe a quick meditation or a card pull, which we will be doing at the end of this video. So joining me here on Instagram Live, Facebook Live, Twitter Live, YouTube Live, all of the places live is a great way to take advantage of this energy with the Scorpio moon forming a square to Jupiter, a highly spiritual planet. So make a little bit of time, if you can, this morning for even just a 10-minute gratitude practice or spiritual practice. This can help give you some direction as you continue to set intentions and continue to visualize what you want out of 2022 and out of the rest of 2021. Then by 8:30 this morning, so in the next 45 minutes or so, the Scorpio moon forms a sextile, a supportive angle to Pluto and Capricorn. This is going to give us one last taste of that new moon transformative energy. Pluto rules Scorpio. Pluto is that deep, shadowy planet that helps us go deep within. It's that introspective energy. And so the moon making this final connection before it changes signs to Pluto gives us that final opportunity to harness the transformative power this new moon brought. It could help us process some of the difficult emotions that have come up over the past few days. And it can also help us release any lingering energy that feels stuck. Maybe you had some intense or deeply introspective thoughts, emotions coming up for this new moon, and you might feel stuck in those emotions. This moon forming a sextile to Pluto at 8:30 Pacific time this morning can really help us release any of that lingering energy that still might be holding us back. And it can also help us dive deeper into our own understanding of ourselves. So if you are wondering why things are coming up for you, why you're feeling the way you're feeling, well, this supportive angle between the moon and Pluto can help you dig a little bit deeper and uncover your own motivations, your own, I don't want to say secrets, but it can help you uncover your own subconscious tendencies, why you do the way the things you do the way you do them. So we start off the morning with the moon making a lot of these connections, and then after about 9 or 10 a.m., the moon is void for most of the day until it enters Sagittarius at 6 o'clock tonight. A void moon is a chance to rest. It's when the moon is making no more planetary connections before it enters a new sign. Any projects started under the void moon probably won't amount to much. This energy is one, like I said, of rest, of darkness, especially with the new moon. So this is a good chance if you've been doing a lot of inner work, if you've been working really hard in general this weekend, or this week, I should say, this is a chance to rest. Give yourself a little bit of a pause before the moon moves into Sagittarius tonight. And that happens at about 6 o'clock Pacific time, which could bring a boost of energy or motivation when the moon is in Sagittarius. Sagittarius loves a party. So this could look like a night out on the town with the moon in Sagittarius. If you've been feeling weighed down by that deep, intense, watery, emotional Scorpio energy, this will feel much lighter once the moon moves into Sagittarius. It will feel more fun, which we love. And then it's also a chance to really zoom out and look at the big picture. Sagittarius energy is about that big picture, about a higher understanding, about figuring out long-term where you want to be, or having bigger spiritual realizations. So if you've been really deep into the details of what's going on in your life, if you have been, I keep saying feeling that intense energy, but seriously, so many people have reached out to me saying that this new moon in Scorpio was kind of a doozy for them. So the moon moving into Sagittarius will definitely bring us some relief from that intense energy and just help us feel more upbeat and spontaneous. Sagittarius loves a spontaneous adventure. You might get a little trigger happy and book a trip tonight, because we have that new moon energy still helping us set intentions, visualize what we want for 2022. And Sagittarius loves travel. So you might book a spontaneous trip this weekend while the moon is in Sagittarius. Just beware of overdoing it. Sagittarius energy can be a little bit excessive. We can go overboard. So if you're going out tonight or this weekend, you're looking for a good time, you're looking to just have a little break from the deep introspection, the deep work that you've been doing all week with this new moon in Scorpio, just make sure you're not overdoing it and, sabotaging the rest of your weekend or making it so you can't enjoy the rest of your weekend, right? Sometimes overdoing it can hurt us in the long run. So that's what's going on with the moon. Very active this morning, calm for most of the day, and then it moves into Sagittarius tonight. That Sagittarius energy is what we'll be feeling through the rest of the weekend. But we have two major planetary movements happening today that I want to talk through as well. So this morning, Venus moved into Capricorn. It was in Sagittarius. We've just talked about that Sagittarius energy, making us feel more free and spontaneous and optimistic about love, about finances. Now Venus is in a very serious sign, Capricorn, and it's going to stay there for the next 4 months because we do have a retrograde in Venus from December 19th to January 29th. So when we have a retrograde, the planet stays in a sign longer. It's moving forward in the sign, then it turns retrograde, it moves backward in that sign, and then it has to move forward through that sign again. So it doubles or almost triples the normal time Venus would be in one sign. Capricorn, like I said, is a very serious energy, and Venus is going to be in Capricorn for the next 4 months or so. Before Venus goes retrograde, we can expect the first few weeks of this transit before December 19th to really make us think in the long term and make plans for our love life, for our partnerships and relationships, and for our finances. How can we build more wealth? How can we build more stability? Capricorn is the builder of the zodiac. It likes structure. It's ruled by Saturn, which is all about limits and boundaries. So We'll really be assessing what we're building in our lives as we look towards 2022, the rest of the year. Every time around this time of year, it starts to feel like time is speeding up. Well, Venus in Capricorn will have us thinking about our goals, thinking about 2022, looking not only into next year, but deeply into the future, far into the future. And it's also asking us how our current relationships fit into our long term goals. These aren't just romantic relationships we're talking about. This could be business partnerships. This could be really any connection you have with another human being that influences your life on the regular. So, how do your current relationships fit into your long term goals? That's what Venus in Capricorn is going to be asking you to think about. The same goes for your finances and your spending. Venus rules money. So, how is your current spending or your expenses on things that you desire, or your spending on things that bring you pleasure? How is that affecting your long term goals? Venus loves to feel good. It loves luxury. The planet loves, to splurge a little bit, right? But Capricorn is the limiter and pulls us back and says, like, okay, let's ground ourselves here. Let's figure out if this is really the best option, if this is really going to be beneficial or stable moving forward. So, not only are we looking at our love lives and how they fit into our long-term goals, how other people fit into our long-term goals, but we'll be looking at our financial spending and how that is impacting our long-term goals as well. The next few weeks could be a good time to make some investments if you have the freedom and the ability to do that, that could benefit you in the long term in 2022 or beyond. And let's talk about the energy of Venus retrograde. Of course, when it gets a little bit closer in December, we'll talk about it more in depth. But just so you can get an idea of what to expect, Venus will be retrograde in Capricorn from December 19th to January 29th. So over all the holidays, over New Year's, we can expect this Venus retrograde energy. This could bring your ex back into your life. Mercury retrograde is infamous for don't text your ex, don't call your ex, but Venus retrograde literally can make us go back to old relationships, or even just be thinking about revisiting those feelings old relationships or our exes brought. This energy can also help us re-examine any cracks in our foundation. So really go back to the drawing board and look at our stability, what we're building, and how our daily patterns, our daily habits are supporting that. So this retrograde can be a chance to do a review of your values, of what's important to you, and how your relationships with other people and your relationship with money is supporting that. That's really going to be the theme of Venus in Capricorn. It's just going to be much more in your face and forcing you to look at these issues when it's retrograde. We could also be forced to re-examine any past karmic actions that have not been resolved, because Capricorn is all about the past. It's all about our ancestors. It's all about karma. And so anything that has not been resolved, even from past lifetimes, anything that you're carrying could come up, especially when it comes to, again, your relationships with love and money. That could come up with Venus retrograde in Capricorn. So Venus is in Capricorn now. I'll show you on our little chart here. You can see 0 degrees Capricorn right there. We are moving into a new energy. You might already be starting to feel it. You might be feeling that like boss energy. Capricorn loves to be the boss. And so you might feel more pleasure out of taking the lead over the next couple months. You might also just feel like you want to get more serious and down to business when it comes to love and when it comes to money. So the last major transit we will talk about today is Mercury moving into Scorpio. So while I have our chart pulled up here from astroseek.com, it's my favorite tool to use to look at the transits, we can see that Mercury is still hanging out in Libra at 29 degrees. And Mercury had an extended stay in Libra, similar to what Venus will be doing in Capricorn, because we had Mercury retrograde in Libra. And a lot of people felt this Mercury retrograde was really difficult. It brought up a lot of past issues, especially being in Libra, the sign of relationships. It might have brought up past relationships or past triggers, past issues in relationships. Mercury doesn't move into Scorpio until tonight at 7:30-ish Pacific time. So this is going to bring that intense Scorpio energy to our communications, to our thoughts, to the information we want to learn. We might, over the next couple of weeks, do a deep dive into one subject or be a little bit obsessive about learning something. This transit starts tonight, as I mentioned, and continues until November 24th. So it's a fairly short trip through Scorpio that Mercury makes, not nearly as long as Mercury's stay in Libra. This is just going to really make us deeply curious. Mercury in Scorpio loves a secret. It loves to be the detective. It loves to unearth hidden information. So we could have some profound realizations, or this transformative energy from the Scorpio new moon, from the sun in Scorpio. Mars is still in Scorpio. So by the end of today, we will have, I believe, 3 major planets in Scorpio. 4, if you count the moon. I lied. The moon will not be in Scorpio when Mercury moves into Scorpio, but still we'll have 3 major celestial bodies in Scorpio by the end of the day, further boosting this intense transformative energy that we've been feeling. If you have Scorpio in your chart, you might be loving this. Personally, I love Scorpio energy. I have a Scorpio moon, so I'm all about diving deep, getting into the feels. But if you are not super compatible with Scorpio energy or comfortable in Scorpio energy, the next couple weeks could really force you out of your comfort zone and into your own depths, into your own shadows. Thank you so much for tuning in, Safe. Thank you for watching, Shauna. I'm so happy you guys keep coming back, and all of your encouragement is just, it means so much to me. So let's finish out Mercury and Scorpio. Then we'll give you a major overview of the energy of the day, and then we will pull a card. So Mercury and Scorpio makes us curious. It makes us think deeply. We can expect this intensity to keep building. As far as how we communicate, because Mercury rules how we communicate as well, our words could be a little bit sharper or more intense over the next couple weeks. So really be aware of how you're communicating. Scorpio is the sign of the scorpion, so it can make us a little bit more defensive in our communication, and it can make us a little bit more reactive as well. Get curious about yourself. Get curious about your own motivations. If you feel yourself becoming triggered or reactive in a conversation, in a discussion, maybe take a second to understand why that's happening. What's coming up for you? Take a little emotional pause and check in with how you're feeling, because that could be a really big indicator of things that are not resolved. And understanding why we do the things we do can be really valuable. And Scorpio energy loves to understand motivations, especially with Mars in Scorpio, Mercury in Scorpio. We'll have this intense drive to keep pushing forward, especially with these intentions that we set for the new moon, can really help boost our motivation to get things done and to make things happen. But just be careful not to get so wrapped up in your own motivations, to get so intense that you take that intensity out on other people, because Scorpio energy can lash out a bit, right? Think of it as the scorpion. Think of it as when we feel vulnerable, when we feel like our safety could be compromised, or even just in difficult discussions when our ego flares up and thinks our safety is compromised. Sometimes that scorpion tail can come out and sting our opponent before we can even get hurt. That's what the scorpion does. It paralyzes its predator before the predator actually starts attacking it. So make sure you're not doing that. Make sure you're not being the scorpion in the situation. And if you're feeling that intense energy, check in with yourself. feel where it's coming from, and just use this energy of Mercury and Scorpio to your advantage over the next couple weeks by really diving into your own curiosity. Like I said, learning something that feeds your soul. If something is feeling interesting to you, or like you want to learn more about it, follow that. Bring out that detective magnifying glass and go for it. Dig deep. So overview, we have the moon making all these connections this morning, really positive connections actually, which should lighten up the energy from this Scorpio new moon. Yesterday's connections with the new moon were a little bit more intense. Today, the angles to different planets help beam down some more positive, some lighter energy. And by tonight, the moon moves into Sagittarius, and we will all be ready to just let loose and release a lot of the intense emotional work we've done this week. And then we have Venus now in Capricorn, which makes us want to get down to business, think long-term about our love life, about our finances, about our income, make those big plans, and get really serious about our future plans in love and in money. And then Mercury moves into Scorpio tonight, helping us dig a little bit deeper into our curiosity, have those intense talks with people. Anything that's unresolved could be resolved through a really deep talk. Just make sure you're being vulnerable and your emotions aren't getting the best of you in those conversations. But tonight, or really over the next couple weeks, some really connecting conversations could be really transformative as well. So that's kind of the energy of the day. The energy of the Scorpio new moon carries us through most of the day Friday, or at least the morning on Friday. And then we have the moon moving into Sagittarius tonight, a major energy shift coming with Mercury moving into Scorpio as well. It's Venus day. Venus just moved into a new sign. So overall, this is just a fresh energy that we're stepping into today, and a fresh opportunity, as with every new day. But the planets are certainly supporting an energetic shift today. So any intentions that you called in with the new moon yesterday can really be supported by this new energy if you can lean into it and take advantage of it. Set those long-term goals, have those deep talks, get deeply curious about yourself so you can release anything that still might be holding you back and really step into the transformative power of the new moon in Scorpio. So I'm going to grab a deck of oracle cards right now so we can do our card pull. I keep forgetting to have these cards near me, but that's okay. So I figured I'm going to use a new deck I just got. My friend Jenna introduced me to this deck a few years ago, and it's the Spirit Animal Oracle. It's a really beautiful deck by Colleen Barron Reed. I'll show you here. That's what it looks like. But I wanted to use the Spirit Animal deck this morning because of my slug encounter. If you missed the beginning of the live stream, I went to pull my moon water out of the light of the new moon this morning before the sun came up, and I had a little slug friend attached to the mason jar, and it had made all sorts of little slug trails on the jar, and so I left him outside. I left the moon water outside, so hopefully he will move on to a safer place and I don't have to have a slug in my house. But I looked up the meaning of the slug because, you know, I am deeply curious about these things, and it was actually a very positive interpretation of, you know, I was thinking, okay, the universe is telling me to slow down. It's telling me to, you know, I've been going, launching this live stream, doing a million different things. And that very well could have been the message, but it's also a very spiritually connected being, the slug. It can bridge the gap between earth and water elements, which is very fitting for my personal chart, and also help us balance out our masculine and feminine energies. So I wanted to see what spirit animal is coming through for the collective today by using this spirit animal oracle deck, and then we'll read a little description and see what energy that is bringing today. So what do we have today? Okay. All right. And Mo, my dog, just got up. If you're watching the YouTube stream, he's getting impatient. So we'll wrap this up pretty quickly. But here is our card for the day. We got Parrot Spirit, if you can see that. So here's our card on Instagram. on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Here is the card we pulled for the day. And now let's figure out what energy the parrot spirit brings. So this is number 45 in the deck. If 45 is an important number to you, that could be a little sign from your guides that you are on the right track, or whatever meaning it has for you, that might be coming up. Oh, interesting. Okay. Parrot spirit, watch your words. How fitting with Mercury moving into Scorpio tonight. Here's the oracle message. What are you saying to yourself? What messages are you repeating? Is it something that makes you feel good about yourself and reminds you of your strengths and potential? Parrots mimic the sound around them. And when parrot spirit appears, it is time to be more mindful of your self-talk and its qualities. What do you say to others? Are you repeating what you truly believe? Remembering to speak with light and love can become a habit. Be generous with compliments and thanks, affirming all that is good so that your loving, healing words will be heard throughout the jungle, cutting through the noise and inspiring others. Listen for the words that remind you of all the strength, abundance, and joy in your life and in the world around you, and then repeat them, affirming what is real, true, and nurturing to the soul. The universe will reflect back to you the story you tell. Words matter. So choose ones that lift you up and inspire others to remember that beauty surrounds us. What a beautiful message with the Parrot Spirit card coming up today. I absolutely love that. And I just think it's so fitting with Mercury moving into Scorpio, with all of this Scorpio energy. We've been asked to go deep within and look at the stories we've been telling ourselves, look at any limiting beliefs that have been holding us back so we can fully step into our power. The moon forming that square to Jupiter as we woke up this morning can help us get in this flow of abundant, loving, grateful self-talk. So if you're watching this and you're looking for something to connect to you a little bit with the energy of the day and with the parrot spirit, it could be a great time to journal out some affirmations or write down some affirmations that make you feel good. And then you can carry that energy out into the world and have conversations that make other people feel good as well. So lean into the parrot spirit, lean into that loving self-talk, that loving talk with others. Remember, when Mercury moves into Scorpio tonight, that it can bring some intense communication, but intensity doesn't necessarily need to be a bad thing. Intensity can be intense love, intense support. And a lot of people I know who have Scorpio placements have that intensity when it comes to their relationships with others and their willingness to show up and hold space for others. So we can use the parrot energy, we can use the energy of Mercury and Scorpio to have deep but loving communications, deep but loving conversations, not only with other people, but with ourselves. So that is the energy of the day. If you missed any part of this live video, it'll be posted on YouTube, and I'll share links on my social media accounts so you can watch the full thing there. You can also go to thespiritualjournalist.com and click on astrology, and you can see a full breakdown of today's transits all written out if you prefer to read through the transits really quickly. And again, I'm so grateful for everybody who tuned in this morning. Love all the comments that came through. Julian, my other half, we're going to the Kings game tonight, so he is ready to let loose with the Sagittarius moon at the Kings game. Frank, thank you so much for tuning in and watching. We'll be doing this every weekday morning at 7:30 a.m., so I can't wait to see you all right back here next week. In the meantime, stay curious. From Facebook when it opens, it's saying Instagram from Meta. So I'm preparing myself to start saying stream it live